Hello movie Barfs, and welcome back to the channel. It's never easy to make a good biopic. You're pretty much trying to condense decades of a person's life into a 3-act structure, and oftentimes you need to make creative departures from the truth to make it more interesting. Show the real thing, and some may get bored. Stray off too far from the truth, and you piss off some hardcore fans. Rocketman is a biopic that tells the story of Sir Elton John's childhood and rise to stardom, with all the struggles he faced behind all the glamour. With the success of Bohemian Rhapsody the year before, it's not surprising that another music star biopic was in the pipeline. Although it showed some promise, it wasn't too well received by audiences. Let's take a look at why, but before that, here's your spoiler warning. The main gripe with the film, and the one that surprised me when I watched it, was that it was more of a musical than a drama. Characters break out into song spontaneously, and I don't know if that was the best approach. It felt out of place, and in many cases, it detracts from the emotional intensity of the scene. Young Elton John is having an emotional conflict with his parents. The tone of the scene feels sad, but suddenly he starts singing. And not only him, his parents and everyone in the vicinity also breaks out of tune. Later on, at his lowest point, Elton goes on a drug overdose, but suddenly it becomes an underwater singing sequence of Rocketman. When he's in the hospital, he gets lifted up like a rock star being worshipped while being transferred from his stretcher. He's supposed to be unconscious and fighting for his life, so when he starts singing, the drama feels less real, and it really takes you out of the movie. This is a problem as it contradicts the emotional direction we've been heading. We've been following Elton down his downward spiral of addiction and depression, and suddenly the tone changes to that of a light and uplifting feel for what is supposed to be the darkest and most devastating point of his life. The sudden musical breakouts really fizzle out any emotional payoff that the dialogue was leading up to, and honestly, I feel like it handicapped the movie. And not to mention, there were just too many songs. I actually lost count by the midway point, and it seemed like the filmmakers were trying to cram in as many as possible. As the audience, we're not here to listen to Elton's songs. His concerts and tracks are all available on YouTube, plus the ones in the movie are just knockoff renditions of the original anyway. We're here to see the dramatic moments of one of the greatest music artists played out on the big screen, for us to take a peek into the highlight reel of his life. Of course, given that music is such a key component of Elton's life, you would have to show a few of them for narrative purposes, just like in Walk the Line and Bohemian Rhapsody, biopics of Johnny Cash and Freddie Mercury. But the music was used to help further the plot in those cases, not just being played for the sake of giving the audience a musical number. I've heard it said that if a song or musical sequence doesn't add to the narrative, then it serves no real purpose and can be cut out. Take a look at some of the Disney films, for example. Those songs work because they help drive the narrative and add depth to the character. With Be Prepared, the song advances the plot by letting the audience know of Scar's plan to overthrow Mufasa with the hyenas. With Part of Your World, it's used to hammer home to the audience that Ariel is dissatisfied with life under the sea and wants to explore the world above. In this film, you could cut most of the songs out without doing any damage to the plot. And if that's the case, then you have a clear indicator that those songs are not worth including in the movie. It also didn't help that some of the songs went in a bizarre direction. In Crocodile Rock, Elton and the audience start floating in midair in the middle of the song. And in Rocketman, he literally blasts off like a rocket with cloud exhaust behind him. These moments were corny, and they take you out of the movie. But other than being a budget version of Grease, another gripe a lot of viewers have with the film is that it focused too much on Elton's relationships and sexuality. I don't really have an issue with this, actually, although I did find the sex scene to be excessive and unnecessary. Like I mentioned, it's hard to create a 3-act structure from the many decades of a person's life. Of course, there's so much more to Elton John than what we see in the span of 2 hours. We don't see his philanthropy, his lifelong contributions to music that resulted in his knighthood, or that he quit touring to raise his children. There's just too much to cram into 2 hours, so it's perfectly reasonable that they decided to narrow down on Elton's relationships for a specific portion of his life. The tension in the film comes from the issue of whether Elton will ever be truly loved. That's the arc that the filmmakers chose for the plot, and we see this right from the start with his absent parents, the one-dimensional evil manager, and the fact that his mom tells him he will never be truly loved as a homosexual. While it's fine to focus on this aspect of Elton's life, the ending did feel a little abrupt and rushed. We see Elton deciding to go for rehab, and in a vision sequence, he hugs his younger self, symbolizing that he's taking the first step to loving and accepting himself. What sparked this decision or change isn't revealed to us, and it feels like there's something missing. Oh, and there's a tad too many of these imaginary vision sequences, too. But then it just ends with an epilogue, with a series of texts that summarize the next few decades of his life. It seemed that his character's internal resolution was just beginning, but we never got to see it develop fully. We see that he's been sober for 28 years, but we don't see how or why he succeeded. Bohemian Rhapsody had a more complete arc for Freddie Mercury, as we did get to see him move on from his toxic relationships to finding a better partner. Probably because they spent a fraction of their time on songs as compared to this film, freeing them up to delve deeper into the character. It might sound like I hate this movie, but I don't. I just think it's pretty average. It was a fairly okay glimpse of Elton's life, and it was insightful to see that all the fame and fortune couldn't compensate for the basic human need of being loved. And I like the fact that they showed how he had to change his demeanor in an instant for the sake of showbiz. The one good thing about the Rocketman song was the part right before he stepped out to the Dodgers Stadium to perform. We see his depressed and melancholy face, and right after he receives his bat, we see him put on a fake smile for the sake of his audience. Overall, Rocketman suffered from trying to chase two rabbits at the same time. It was a hybrid of a musical and drama, but it wasn't flamboyant enough to be a musical and not deep enough to be a drama. It would have been better if they just went all out in the drama direction and ditched the musical approach. But as always, there's always so much more to learn about one of the greatest singers of all time than from just a 2-hour movie. I never really liked biopics. I prefer to watch documentaries or actual footage of the person, rather than see an actor trying to imitate the person. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out some of our other videos as well.